our Earl is 100 years young. And I say our Earl, and you'll have to bear with me tonight because I will not call him Earl or Mr. Cameron anymore. I am going to call him Uncle Earl. Because when I was coming up, my mother, anytime she introduced me to an adult, it was your uncle or your auntie. So we are going to be blessed tonight. Our guest speaker will be Uncle Earl, himself in the flesh and blood. This is the second time that Uncle Earl has honored us with his presence for a Bermudian Heartbeats event. The first one was back in 2012. Of course, a few things have changed since then, with perhaps the most notable, this very theater now bears his honorable name. I think that is certainly a good way of paying homage to our legendary screen actor. Another being that we are now officially celebrating a centenarian. Therefore, tonight, in honor of our uncle and his 100th birthday this past August, we will take a look back at a career that spans more than 6 decades and 28 films. 6 decades, 60 years. Uncle Earl, CBE, is a man who needs no introduction as our island's most celebrated and respected actor. His success in film industry is unparalleled by any other Bermudian. And he stands as an inspiration to all our young actors all over the world, not just in Bermuda, and particularly those of color. We also want to highlight Uncle Earl for the remarkable contributions he has made in breaking through the barriers that existed for black actors during his time. Uncle Earl told me at lunch yesterday about when he first went to England and he couldn't find work. And as a black man, you can imagine trying to find work in the 1930s, not only in Bermuda, but in the UK. What a strong testament to the man. Uncle Earl has performed with Oscar winners and film legends. Yet it is a testimony to his character that Uncle remains in his interactions and at his core a Bermudian gentleman of the highest order. He is sensitive, generous, and as I found out at lunch yesterday, absolutely and eminently charming. It's certainly a great honor that our uncle accepted this invitation to participate in this program once again. And on behalf of the government of Bermuda, I would like to personally thank him for serving as a cultural ambassador for our island home and an absolute brilliant example of what is possible for Bermudians to accomplish if they put their minds to something. I would like to thank our partner for this event, the Hamilton Princess Hotel and Beach Club, who assisted in making the program possible. I would also like to thank the staff of the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, in particular, my sweetheart, Mrs. Heather Whalen, my other sweetheart, Dr. Kim Dismount Robinson, my other sweetheart, Ms. Vennie Sims, and my other sweetheart, P.C. Carey, as well as all the members of the Bermudian Heartbeats Committee for organizing this program. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and we look forward to a thoroughly enjoyable evening. Thanks.
Earlston J. Cameron, CBE, was born in Pembroke on August the 8th, 1917. As a young man, he joined the British Merchant Navy and sailed mostly between New York and South America. When the Second World War broke out, he found himself stranded in London, arriving on the 29th of October, 1939. His first stage appearance came in 1942, when he talked his way into a West End production of Chu Chin Chow. He went on to act in a number of plays in London, including The Petrified Forest and Deep Are the Roots. Mr. Cameron's breakthrough acting role was in Pool of London, a 1951 film set in post-war London involving racial prejudice, romance, and a diamond robbery. He won much critical acclaim for his role in the film. His next major film role following his work in Pool of London was in the 1955 film Simba, about the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya, in which Earl Cameron played the role of Peter Karanja, a doctor trying to reconcile his admiration for Western civilization with his Kikuyu heritage. He played the Mau Mau general Joroji in Safari in the same year. From the 1950s to the present day, Mr. Cameron has had many major parts in films, including The Heart Within in 1957, Sapphire in 1959, in which he played Dr. Robbins, the brother of a murdered girl, and The Message in 1976, the story of the Prophet Muhammad. He also had repeated appearances on many British science fiction programs of the 1960s, including Doctor Who, The Prisoner, and The Andromeda Breakthrough, as well as a host of other television programs, including Emergency, Ward 10, The Zoo Gang, Crown Court, EastEnders, and others. Other film appearances include Tarzan the Magnificent, No Kidding, Flame in the Streets, in which he played Gabriel Gomez, Tarzan's Three Challenges, in which he played Mang, Guns at Patasi, Battle Beneath the Earth, in which he played Sergeant Seth Hawkins, The Sandwich Man, and the James Bond movie Thunderball, in which he played Bond's Caribbean assistant Pinder Romania. His most recent film appearances include a major role in The Interpreter in 2005 alongside Nicole Kidman and Sean Penn, playing the fictitious dictator Edmund Zwane. His performance was universally praised. In 2006, he appeared in a cameo as a painter in the film The Queen, alongside Helen Mirren. In 2010, he appeared in the film Inception. He has been the recipient of a number of awards, both local and international. In 2007, Mr. Cameron was presented with the Prospero Award by the Bermuda International Film Festival. He received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Bermuda Arts Council in 1999 and a retrospective by the prestigious National Film Theatre of London. He was appointed Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 2009 New Year's Honours. The theatre that we occupy this evening was named the Earl Cameron Theatre in his honour in 2012, and the University of Warwick awarded Mr. Cameron an honorary doctorate in January 2013. Please join me in welcoming Bermuda's most celebrated actor, the one and only Earl Cameron.
Well, I'm sure you're used to hearing this type of applause, and even more.
I'm sorry.
You're used to hearing this sort of applause and much more.
You know, Charles, I have a problem with my hearing, so
I'll come closer. I'll come closer. Turn your hearing up.
Okay.
Okay. We've just been treated to a cornucopia of your successes over the past 6 decades, none of which would have occurred had you not left Bermuda. So my first question to you is, why did you leave Bermuda?
What?
Why did you leave Bermuda?
Why did I leave Bermuda? It's a long story.
Make it short.
Actually, I was working on a ship called the Monarch of Bermuda, and many of the elder people would remember that. Furnace Music Line, right? Mm-hmm. So after a few trips, I transferred to another ship called the Eastern Prince. That took me out of South America and back. On the second trip to Buenos Aires, the war broke out. Night we left Santos. And the war broke out, and as a coincidence, there was an explosion. One of the engines blew up on the same night, on a Saturday night, I remember, 3rd of September, 1939. And we all thought it was a torpedo hit the ship. But anyhow, it was the second engine that blew up. It was a twin-engine ship. We stayed in Buenos Aires for about 3 weeks to repair the engine. And they put a sign up on the ship saying the British subjects would need to go to England with the Eastern Prince, and a few Americans sent back to the States. So I went to London.
But now, given that Britain wasn't exactly the most welcoming place for blacks, what encouraged you to stay and pursue, of all things, an acting career?
And Charles, I'm sorry, this is getting very difficult for me.
Okay, can you hear it better?
Yeah.
And I said, given that Britain was not a welcoming place to people of color, what encouraged you to pursue an acting career of all things?
I'm not so sure what you're saying because I'm sorry. I apologize to the audience. You know, at the age of 100, I can use an excuse for this.
At 100?
If you want to know my career, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I got into the business of theater 1940. I thought it was 41. Somebody said 42, but 41.
41.
And I was on a show called Chooch and Chow. And a friend of mine gave me some tickets to see the show. I went backstage after watching the show, and there were 6 black guys in the show, and they were just sort of chorus, more or less, you know, walk-on parts and so on. And I said to, his name is Harry Crosswell, I said, Harry, can't you get me the show? He said, no, Earl, it's not like that. Well, you know, I was washing dishes in hotels, all the menial jobs in order to earn a living. And I thought, how nice to be like these guys, you know, in a West End show. But he said, no, it doesn't happen like that. I said, okay, Harry, I was only kidding, more or less. I was pretty serious. So then, it would be about 3 days later, he came to me in a club I hung out in Water Street, West End, you know the West End.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, Earl, your big chance has come. So I said, well, what are you talking about, Harry? He said, Russell didn't turn up. A guy named Russell was in the show. This is the 3rd time it's Mr. Matinee, and the director said, get somebody else. I said, are you kidding? He said, no, man, I'm serious. So he said, took me to the theater, stage door. The director had me standing outside at the time. He looked me up and down. He said, I guess you'll do, Harry. So that I was on stage. Would you believe it? The very night I was on stage. So take him up to the dressing room, show him what he has to wear, and suddenly, in fact, my scene with 3 other guys, and their man Abdullah, big singer, big baritone singer. So he comes on and he sings, see the oysters stewed in honey and letters from Zanzibar. Dun 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 dun. Now, on each side of him, there were 4 guys, 2, 1 here, 1 there, 1 here on the left, 1 there. I'm on the left. And now we come in on, oh, Ali, I forget the words. Baba, oh, curse, Ali, Baba. Well, the others are singing. I'm over to my mouth, the sound coming out. I didn't know the words anyhow.
You were lip syncing.
The sweat was pouring down. I look out front, all I can see is all these faces out there. And here I am, never been near a stage in my life, and sweating, pouring down, as I said, and my legs are trembling. And I was thinking to myself, well, this is Much better than washing dishes.
Okay, now fast forward to Pool of London. When you actually got into Pool of London, did you feel now that you'd found your niche?
Did I what?
Had you found your niche in acting once Pool of London came?
Pool of London, that's a good question, because I had been in the theater for about 8 years before I did Pool of London. And I suddenly got invited to go to this Ealing studio to test for the part, a wonderful part. Up to today is my best part, actually. And director, Bessel did, the director, he would say, okay, Earl, let's go through the scene. I knew the scene, I'd rehearsed it. And he said, okay, action. And I'd say, yes. Something like this happened the first time I met Danny, if I remember the lines. He said, Earl, the camera's here, the mic is here, bring it down. I was doing a stage performance, you know. 8 years in the theater. Well, I rehearsed, I did this, left the studio that day, I never got it right. 4 or 5 times I did the scene. Each time, yes, the first time, he said, Earl, don't project. You know, theater is bigger than life, film is life, so to speak. So I tested out the 3 girls I tested with. It was the third one, because they called me back to the studio a few days later, and it was the third girl I tested with. And this scene, because it was a scene on London Bridge late at night, and he said, okay, Earl, action. I said, yeah. Something like this happened the first time I met Danny. He got in a fight because of me. He said, that's it, you got it. And from that day onwards, it's been very easy working from, you know. But if you've been in the theater practically all your life, I mean, for 8 years, it's difficult to get the intimacy of film. But I got it. And so now I love working, you know, being in front of a camera. I mean, acting.
Now you have what you call in broadcasting a mid-Atlantic accent. How did you manage to sort of get into all of these parts with the type of accent you had? Was it difficult to do that?
How did I manage to get in?
To speak the parts with the type of accent that you had, which was...
Well, I tell you, the first play I was in was a play called Deep Are the Roots. A wonderful part. And I was an understudy from the beginning. And the first day we had the understudy rehearsal, I forget the lines at the moment, but after, you know, first act and so on, the stage director said, Earl, you know, I'm sitting in the 5th row and I can't understand a word you're saying. I had studied the part well. I had plenty of time to do it. And I thought I was doing well. And all the others in the theater said, yes, Earl, if you want to be an actor, you got to do something about your diction. So fortunately, there was a young lady in that show called Ida Shapley. She said, you know, I can introduce you to someone who can help you with your diction. So she took me down to this lovely lady. Her name was Amanda Ivor Aldrich. She was the daughter of Ivor Aldrich. You've heard of the great Ivor Aldrich?
Yes, yes.
She was the daughter. She was then in her 70s, elderly lady, but delightful person. And I worked with her about at least 3 years, ironing out this drawl that I had, you know. Gradually, I got the hang of. I hope my diction is all right now. Can you understand what I'm saying? Okay.
Well, We've already tested your diction now. Let's test your memory. And I don't want to embarrass you, but normally a person of your vintage might lose their memory. How's yours?
What was that?
Your memory. How is your memory?
How's what?
Your memory.
My memory?
Yes.
Oh, my memory is not bad. It's pretty good.
Give me an example.
Well, you know, I've been in numerous plays, not to mention model theater, films and television and everything. And the truth is, I can't remember hardly any of the lines I've said and all those things. But there's one thing stands out with me. That is something when in the early part of my career, although I never went to a drama school, but we had in London, we had a group, a drama group. One of the lines I learned was from the play Hamlet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it stays with me all these years. I'm going back now, what, over 70 years, you know? And the Hamlet, and this, it says, speak the speech, I pray you, as I pronounced it to you, triply on the tongue. But if you mouthed, as many of your players do, I would have leathed the town crier spoke my lines. Nor do not soar the air too much with your hand, thus. But use all gently. For in the very turn tempest, as I may say, whirlwind of your passion, you must acquire and beget a temperance that may give it smoothness. Ah! It offends me to the soul to hear a pearly-pated fellow tear a passion to tatters, to any rags, to split the ears of the groundlings, who for the most part are capable of nothing but inexplicable dumb shows and noise. Pray you avoid it. Be not too tame, neither, but suit the action to the word, and the word to the action. Go you get ready, he says to the cast. But here we are. I still remember that.
You passed the memory test.
Thank
Now,
you.
you know the American actor Samuel L. Jackson. You remember Samuel L. Jackson? He once rather unkindly said that the reason a lot of American producers were hiring black British actors was because they came cheaper. What would be your comment on that?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, there's some very good black British actors at the moment. Brilliant actors. Not many, but, well, a few, anyhow. And they stand out. That is very unfair to say that about British actors. I don't like that. No, that's unfair.
I will tell Samuel.
There's some
what you said.
brilliant guys right now, especially from Nigeria. They turn out to be, you know, the guy that was in 12 Years a Slave.
Right. Hmm.
I can never remember his name.
I can't pronounce it.
Right, okay. And also he was played the Martha Luton Cree,
Yes,
Martha
yeah.
Luton.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I mean, yeah, he played the.
Yeah.
Now,
Martin, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Memory.
Tell me this. You're Baha'i, which we all know. What part did your faith play in the selection of your roles? Did you take that into account?
Well, you know, Charles, becoming a Baha'i has changed my life tremendously. That's the greatest thing that ever happened to my life. It was a guy named Roy Steins from Bermuda who first told me about the Baha'i faith. I had been searching for something, some answer to the world's problems for some years. Now, to be very honest, I didn't think I was looking for religion, you know? I thought it was somewhere else. But when I met Roy for the first time, he pulled me up and he said, "Guess who's speaking?" I said, "Well, I know it's a Bermudian, but I can't possibly guess." So it's Roy Stearns from Bermuda. I said, "Okay," we met. We talked about this, and he said, I said, "What brings you to London?" He said, "Well, I've come with the," he knew somehow that I was not searching for sort of what you might say, I don't want to offend anybody, but what you call church religion. I wasn't looking for that.
Okay, all right. That's all right.
No, let me be honest. So he said, "I've come with the Baha'is." I said, "The Baha'is, what's that?" He said, "It's," he tried to explain it to me, but it didn't mean very much to me. I said, "What is one of those things that the Americans have recently brought down to Bermuda?" He said, he snapped me, he said, "No, this is different." I said, "Roy, they're all different." Now, I'm be honest, I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anyone, but I was not looking for the, hackneyed religious phrases that one uses. I was looking for an answer to the world's problems, but I didn't think I'd find it in so-called established religion. Understand? So when he said the Baha'is is something different, I said, "Well, I mean, what do you mean different, Roy? It's a religion, right?" He said, "Yes, sir, it's a religion." I said, "Well, what do you mean different?" So anyhow, he wrote me a couple of books. I read them very carefully. And then I was not fully convinced, but I began to get the answer, what I was looking for. They invited me to the Albert Hall one night with the centenary of the Declaration of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith. So they invited me there. Now, to be very honest, I had once on a Good Friday in Richmond, where I was living, I was feeling very depressed. And there was a Catholic church next door, and I thought I'd go in there and see if I can find something that uplift me, you know. Well, to tell you the truth, I sat in a row about 7 rows from the back, and they had a thing with Christ on the cross. It was on a Good Friday.
Yeah.
So they brought it around, it was coming down the aisle. When I got to the aisle before me, I got up and walked out. I thought, "I'm sorry, this is not what I'm looking for." Anyhow, I didn't get any uplift from it. But so on this night, when he invited me to the Albert Hall, I went rather reluctantly, to be very honest. Because he had pulled me up, he said, "Earl, are you coming tonight?" I said, "Coming where, Roy?" He said, "To the Albert Hall, the meeting I told you about." Well, he had told me about this meeting, but I couldn't remember. So I said, "No, I'm sorry, Roy, I can't make it, man." So my wife said, "Look, for goodness sakes, every time I met you talking about this meeting, what do you mean you never?" I said, I put my hand on the floor, I said, "I can't remember this meeting." He said, "Well, just go for his sake. It's from Bermuda, it's from your home. Go. He'll be very offended if you don't go." So I said, "Okay, but it's going to be hard going. Sitting at the Albert Hall for this rather dull, dowdy." I'm sorry. But I'm being honest. So when I got to the entrance of the Albert Hall, and I looked around, and I saw all these beautiful people. Every age, every color, every religion, every race. 7,000 that turned to me that night at the Albert Hall. And I said, "Roy, this is different, man." He said, "What do you mean different?" I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "The people are different." That's my expression. However, we took our seats. I had the pleasure of listening to 2 speakers, a man named William Sears, and a man named Philip Hainsworth. You wouldn't know these people, but William Sears was an American. I had read his book by then, and he had this wonderful way of speaking, very quick, you know. Anyhow, I can't remember what he talked about. I was too excited for the evening. But I went back to my wife about this wonderful meeting I was at, and after that we started going to 27 Rutland Gate in London with the Baha'i Center.
Yeah.
And this would have been in May, and by August, my wife and I became Baha'is. I had found what I was looking for, the answer to the world's problems, so to speak.
Okay,
And
but
so-
let me ask this, but as a Baha'i, right?
Pardon?
As a Baha'i,
Yeah.
what about certain roles? Were you not allowed to play certain roles? I mean, I can't see you in a nude scene, but I mean, did you sort of pay close attention to the type of role you accepted because of your Baha'i?
I've always been very careful of the type of roles I've had, you know, always. Right at the beginning of my career, I mainly, if it was anything that was offensive to my race of people, I would not play the part. You know, I've had this out with directors. I've had them to change lines. I said, no, I'm not going to say it. You know, once I was invited to go to Manchester for, they had a television series that they were doing. And this guy had worked for the Daily Mail in England. He was an Australian, pretty nice guy. And every week they would show a different town in England. So this time they showed, that's why he got me for it, because they showed something from Manchester. This is an area in Manchester where a lot of black people live, you know. So he was very excited what he had shot. So I got there and he said, "Okay, Earl, let me go down to the studio and have a look at what I've done." So I said, "Yeah, okay." So he put the thing on the screen, and he showed me guys shooting dice in the street, guys sitting in the club, could be smoking something, and that sort of thing, very degrading. So he was very excited about it. He said, "Well, Earl, what do you think of it?" I said, "Awful, disgusting." He said, "What do you mean disgusting?" I said, "It's disgusting, I'm sorry." He said, "So what do you want me to do?" I said, "I'm not going to do it." He said, "You're not going to do it?" I'm not going to do it. He said, "I'll have you blacklisted. We've signed a contract with you." I said, "Do what you ever around like. I'm not going to do it." So I went up, just packed my things to go back to London. This was in Manchester. So about half an hour later, he came up, knocked on the door. He said, "Earl, can we talk this thing over?" I said, "I have nothing to talk to you about." He said, "What do you want me to take out?" I said, "Look." He said, "But this is the way, Moorside is the name of the area in Manchester." He said, "This is the way they like it." I said, "Come on, who do you think you're talking to?" I said, "There are some guys like that, yes. But you've not shown decent people going to church on Sundays and the other type of side of you're showing black people in a bad light. I'm sorry." And I was angry. He said, "Okay, I'll change it any way you like." So we talked it out, and we got it done anyhow.
So you won that battle.
Pardon?
You won that battle.
I won my...
But now tell me now, there was once that you had to tell a lie to a director, where you told the director, he wasn't giving you part because he said you weren't African. You remember that one? The director wouldn't give you this part because he didn't think you were African. And you had to lie to him and tell him that you were. Do you remember that?
I can't quite recall this particular occasion, but there are many times where it could be something like that. Yeah, well, you know, you have to bluff your way sometimes in life.
Now, you have worked with countless prominent actors, but you were never in awe of them. Why?
I'm sorry, Charles. I'm having a problem
That's okay. I'll repeat the question.
Yeah.
You were never in awe of prominent people. You didn't get all excited about the big names that you worked with. Do you remember that?
Oh, I worked with some big names, yes.
But you were never in awe of them. You always treat them as
They're actors. They're just actors.
Exactly.
I worked with a guy named Robert Taylor. Remember Robert Taylor?
I remember Robert Taylor, yeah.
Big star in the 30s and 40s and 50s, a very big Hollywood star. I worked with him in a film called Killers of Kilimanjaro.
Remember that.
Not Snooze of Kilimanjaro.
Killers.
A terrible film. I've been to Africa on the film. And Robert Taylor was a terrible, old-fashioned, out-of-date snob. He would never sit with any actors at lunchtime, you know. Mm-hmm. He'd always sit with the director or the producer. And he was always quite nice to me, strange enough. He was always courteous. And that's one of the actors said, the moment he comes out of his dressing room, he's professional, you know. But true enough, he handled himself in such a way. And there was a guy named Orlando Martins on the film. And Orlando was from Nigeria. He was the type of guy who would not put up with any kind of racial nonsense. And Robert Taylor represented the Ronald Reagan period of Hollywood. I'm sorry, I don't want to get into politics, but true enough, you know, the old-fashioned, out-of-date, racist, right-wing types, you know. So Orlando came down one morning. He said to the director, "Good morning, George. Good morning, sir. Morning, Bob." Bob? No. Who is this one calling me Bob? Attitude, you know. So believe it or not, would you believe it? We were out in Kenya. But 3 days later, Orlando was on his way back to London. He got him thrown off the film because he addressed him as Bob. I mean, he wanted to say Mr. Taylor, but Orlando wasn't that type. He knew the difference, but he was such a terrible racist. I'm sorry. You know, Sidney Poitier told me that when he first went to Hollywood, the only black person he saw in the studio was a shoeshine boy. And we're going back, way back, of course. It's changed now, very different, I know. We got some good directors and also, but at that period, and Robert Taylor and that lot represented that era, that period. So I'm sorry, but I got on well enough with him because I kept my distance from him. I didn't want to be sent back to London.
Now, you represent so much in the film world. If they were a Bermudian looking to get into acting, what advice would you give them?
Advice?
Yeah, to a Bermudian looking to get into the business.
Well, I mean, if he feels he has the talent, if you like, I guess, start from there. And the determination. You see, I can't give advice to someone who, if he wants to be to carve a way for himself in the theater and films and television and all of that, he has to stay with it. Do what he feels his heart tells him to do. Why not? But I would say, first and foremost, do something about your diction, because Bermudians have a beautiful accent. I love my home accent, beautiful. But we're a little careless in our, we're a bit lazy in the way of speaking at times. And in the theater, you have to project. You have to learn to naturally. I mean, left without saying. So I would say to a young actor, work on your diction. Because you need to be understood. And okay, anything else?
I should remember to watch my diction. Now, with all the experiences you've had in the acting world, you still have managed to maintain a great level of humility, because most actors become very self-absorbed, but you haven't gone that route. Is this as a result of your faith, or is this Earl Cameron, the person?
Well, Charles, I have nothing to boast about, you know. I'm really a back-a-town boy. Had to get that clear. That's my background. I'm proud of it. Very proud of it. So, humility, well, what is there to be proud about? I'm just another human being on this earth. There's so billions of us spread all over the planet. And, you know, it's a sorry state when you look around the world today and see the terrible suffering of people. Fortunately, I, at the moment, live in a very nice town in Warwickshire, Kenilworth. It's a lovely part of the world. Both my wife Barbara and I went there about 13 years ago. We love it there. But when I think of somewhere what's happening in Bangladesh, people coming from, used to be called Burma. What's the name of the place?
Myanmar.
Oh, right, okay. Well, that's a sorry state. Just today I was watching some on television.
I know, yeah.
These people. I mean, God, what a life we're living. What a world we're living in at the moment. And I have to say this, but it will get worse before it gets better. No, I'm a Baha'i.
Yeah.
I believe that Baha'u'llah, the father of the Baha'i faith, has come actually to eventually lead us to the golden age of mankind. This is prophesied by all the prophets of God, as spoken of today, when arms were put into plowshares. And we'll have a world of beautiful peace and love and kindness. Mankind will have to earn this. It's not going to be handed to us on a plate. But we have to turn to the one that God sends for the age that this can be set in. And Baha'u'llah, the father of the Baha'i faith, has come to introduce this age. You know, I don't want to get into religion because I might offend a few people.
Okay. Okay. Let's come back to you. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's come back to you. You've been in this business 100 years. You've been on this earth 100 years. You've been in the acting field 6 decades. Is there a role that you wish you had sort of gotten your teeth into during your career? Is there one role that stands out?
Well, I've always wanted to do Othello. I never got the chance to, because in my part, when I was young enough to do Othello, all the Othellos were white actors. You never saw a black, even a black Othello, apart from Paul Robeson way back, you know. But I would have liked to have done some Shakespeare, of course.
So what we're going to do is we're going to let you give us a bit of Shakespeare.
Soft Joe, a word or two before you go. I have done the state some service, and they know it. No more of that. I pray you in your letters, when you shall these unlucky deeds relate, speak of me as I am, nothing extenuate nor set down aught in malice. Then must you speak of one that loved. not wisely, but too well. Of one, like the base Indian threw a pearl away richer than all his tribe, of one whose subdued eyes, albeit unused by the melting mood, drop tears as fast as the Arabian trees, their medicinal gum. Yeah. Set you down this and say besides, the Nalepa ones were malignant and turban Turk, beat a Venetian and introduced the state. I took by the circumcised dog and smote him down. I kissed thee. Yeah, I killed thee. No one but this. Killing myself to die upon a kiss.